Chapter 221, Lu Yuxing. The first day of the rookie ranking competition ended. Yi Yun had fought a total of 5 battles and easily won them all. The other 7 matches ended with his opponents taking the initiative to throw in the towel. Those who were waiting to see Yi Yun turn into a joke were dumbfounded. The members of the Hongdao Association no longer had any temper. What else could they say after being bullied by Yi Yun in this way? There were those who wanted to bite down on Yi Yun, thinking he was a fat lamb for the slaughter, but they had been stopped by the Hongdao Association. For this, they felt very fortunate. They were extremely grateful towards the Hongdao Association for pulling them back in time, preventing them from falling into the fire pit. If not, that one brick would have taught them how to lead a proper life. At the end of the first day's competition, according to the rules, the losers had to pay the winners their dragon scale runes. 10 Hongdao Association members, including the 4 bully lords, lined up to hand over their dragon scale runes to Yi Yun. Usually when they lined up, it was to collect resources or cultivation grounds or other various good stuff. Even the worst lines were for them to line up to buy fried dough or for the bathroom. But now, they were lining up to give their dragon scale runes to someone else. These dragon scale runes were obtained from pawning all of their belongings. It was obvious how they felt. Yi Yun held his identity token and looked ecstatically at the stacks of dragon scale runes flying towards him. He laughed happily, saying, "Generous, you guys are so generous. Thank you everyone for your kind generosity. You know that me being a newcomer, things are not easy, and you all especially came to give me dragon scale runes to spend. I'm so grateful." Upon hearing Yi Yun's words, those Hongdao Association members, whose hearts and livers were hurting, nearly vomited blood. Yi Yun actually said that it wasn't easy for him to be a newcomer? His net worth was even higher than many second and third year cultivators in the Tai A Divine City, let alone the rookies. Seeing Yi Yun's brilliant smile, they really wanted to punch him, but too bad, they could not beat him. And the interspatial ring, don't forget it. Yi Yun reminded Fatty from the 4 bully lords. He had not collected Fatty's ring. Fatty's mouth twitched twice. He looked at the green interspatial ring on his hand, and his fingers trembled as he took off his ring. This ring was a gift given to him by his family clan for his 12th birthday. In the Tai A Divine Kingdom, special attention was paid to the important birthdays for a boy, which were at 12 years old, 15 years old and 20 years old. 12 years old was the time a child abandoned their childishness, which the elders blessed with a gift. 15 years old was when a child could consummate with a girl. 20 years old was the official hallmark of being an adult. Fatty's feeling of giving away this gift of blessing that he received at 12 was clear. When he went back to his family clan, his elders would reprimand him if they found out. But the Tai A Divine City operated this way. One had to pay the price of defeat according to the Tai A Divine City's rules. Are you going to wear all 4 rings? The 4 bully lords, Scrawny asked disgruntledly. Of course I can wear them. Who says I can't? I can wear 8 on one hand easily. I can wear 4 rings using 2 fingers. While saying this, Yi Yun placed the 4 rings on his left hand's middle and ring finger. Each finger wore 2 rings. Yi Yun was pleased upon seeing this. He finally had interspatial rings. It would be more convenient when he went into the divine wilderness to hunt desolate beasts. As for the number 60 Herb Mountain, he reckoned he would not be going there as often anymore. Seeing Yi Yun wear 4 rings on one hand, with the face of a nouveau riche, Scrawny swallowed his saliva and stared silently. Yi Yun went back fully loaded with riches. Many looked at Yi Yun's back with burning eyes. As for Zhou Kuei, Song Zijuan, and the other youths who followed Baldi Qin, they were at a loss for words. Yi Yun's earnings in a day was more than what they made in a year. They finally understood that their worry over Yi Yun in the past had been meaningless. If I knew earlier, I would have bet more. I only bet 50 dragon scale runes that Yi Yun would win more than 10 rounds. Zhou Kuei gave a look of regret. 50 dragon scale runes was not a small sum to him. When he made the bet, he was extremely worried because he felt 10 rounds were way too much. But now, Yi Yun had not even used his saber to win 10 rounds. It was a pity. If he knew this earlier, he would have thrown all his assets on it. At night, in a bright and spacious house amongst the upper-class residences in the Tai Divine City, a puppet beast was rolling on the floor while sweeping away the dust. This puppet was used by some families in the capital to clean the floor. Of course, the Tai Divine City did not provide such items. However, some sons from big family clans would bring such puppets to the Tai Divine City to clean their houses. Oh? You want me to challenge Yi Yun tomorrow? In this room, a effeminate youth leaned on a bed while playing with a lancet-flying dagger. Sitting beside this effeminate youth was a slight chubby youth with a grim face. This person was none other than the Hongdao Association's president, Li Hong. That's right. Brother Lu is ranked 6th among the rookies. Your movement techniques are superb. In the capital city, only a few people do not know of your famous name, Lu Yuxing. Li Hong's idea was simple. Since the Tai Divine City's rules only allowed at most 12 matches a day for the rookie rankings competition, this prevented the contestants from being overexhausted that would result in a decline in strength. But for Yi Yun, who won without battling, he could have additional matches. Hence, Li Hong wanted Lu Yuxing to come out to defeat Yi Yun. This was the way to end Yi Yun's winning streak. At least, he could save on the losses the Hongdao Association had incurred from opening up the betting pool. If not, he would have to give Yi Yun 50,000 dragon scale runes. This would be equivalent to cutting off a piece of flesh from Li Hong. Brother Hong, does your Hongdao Association not have anyone that can stop Yi Yun? Li Hong shook his head. Among the second-year cultivators, there are many that can beat Yi Yun. But amongst the rookies, there really are none. The Hongdao Association was after all inferior to a large association like the Luohua Association, which had been established for 3 to 4 years. Its foundation was still not established, and many of the outstanding rookies did not join the Hongdao Association, but joined other larger associations. Those associations could give better benefits, while Li Hong's promised benefits only came into effect 2 to 3 years later. As a result, Li Hong did not manage to recruit anyone in the top 20 of the rookie rankings. There were also lone wanderers like Chunyo and Xu Xiaoran, who did not join any association. Lu Yuxing was ranked 6th. Li Hong wanted him to go up against Yi Yun because they had known each other for some time and considered each other as friends. As for Chunyo and Xu Xiaoran, Li Hong never came into contact with them. He might not be able to pull his weight with them. And even if he could, they were ranked ahead of Yi Yun. If they challenged Yi Yun could also reject it. Brother Hong, friendship may be friendship, but we need to make things clear. That Yi Yun has not even used his weapon yet. And without a weapon, he could still defeat the bully lords with one move. This means he has skill. Although the power he has displayed up to now is of no threat to me, but who knows, he might have plenty of hidden strength. This time, I plan to rush up to the top 5,000 of the Earth ranks. Yi Yun still hasn't gone up there yet. Even if I win against him, I would just replace his 10,003 spot. Besides that, there aren't any benefits. Me being born in the Duke's residence, and Yi Yun being born from the Cloud Wilderness. He has nothing to lose. If I win over Yi Yun, people will say that is expected, and will even add to Yi Yun's reputation. Yi Yun would be said to be so strong that the Duke's residence's Lu Yuxing came to challenge him. Lu Yuxing said slowly. As a really strong expert amongst the capital's sons, he was completely different from the gangsters like the 4 bully lords. He also knew how to cherish himself. Under normal circumstances, why would he challenge a kid from the Cloud Wilderness? It was equivalent to a noble disciple competing with a country bumpkin. This meant a lowering of Lu Yuxing's status. If you win against Yi Yun, I will give you 3,000 dragon scale runes as a reward. Li Hong knew why Lu Yuxing was resisting it. He made Yi Yun sound strong only for some payment. Hearing Li Hong's words, Lu Yuxing laughed. Brother Hong sure is understanding. However, 3,000 is too little. 8,000 dragon scale runes, take it or leave it. Lu Yuxing made a ridiculous bargain, making Li Hong stare. 8,000? You are just going to fight once. And you want 8,000? Lu Yuxing was strong, but 8,000 dragon scale runes was too much. Lu Yuxing also didn't earn dragon scale runes that easily during this period as a rookie. Ha! If Yi Yun were to win another 8 more rounds, you will need to pay 50,000. I only want 8,000. It's not unreasonable. Lu Yuxing hit Li Hong's sore spot and quoted an outrageous price. Li Hong gritted his teeth and said, all right. 8,000 it is, but only if you win. Rest assured. Lu Yuxing laughed and stood up from the bed. A kid from the Cloud Wilderness only beat up a bunch of goons. How could I lose to him? The 4 bully lords and the other Hongdao Association members were ranked in the hundreds. The difference in strength between them and Lu Yuxing's 6th place was indeed large. This was the reason why Lu Yuxing was so confident. Chapter 222, Star Picking Hand. At night, in the arena hall, many rookies were gathered here. They were discussing the day's battles and their outcomes, while waiting for the next day's challenge tokens. Except for some people as popular as Yi Yun, who were designated more than 30 matches even before the ranking matches began, the other cultivators did not have to fight that many matches. Usually they would decide on the following day's matches after considering the first day's results and rankings. Hence, the challenge tokens were handed out again every day. As for the 12 challenge tokens for challenging Yi Yun, they were all collected and then redistributed to those who had reserved a spot to fight Yi Yun. Previously, the challenge tokens for Yi Yun were easily snapped up. But today, it became a hot potato. No one wanted it. But, with the match reserved and the bet paid, one still had to collect the token, even if they did not want to. Where is Zhang Chang? Come collect your challenge token. Hurry! The person in charge of distributing the challenge token said impatiently. The challenge tokens for Yi Yun had been consecutively declined with all sorts of excuses by the people who had reserved them. It was as if they were being sent to the execution grounds. Zhang Chang's face turned bitter upon hearing his name. It was as if his parents had died. He reluctantly squeezed out from the crowd. Seeing the challenge token for Yi Yun on the administrator's desk, Zhang Chang wanted to slap his own face. Why did he have to be so cheap? Back when he had managed to grab it, he thought he had made a big sum. Now though, he knew that this token he snatched was like a piece of brick. It was like he had nothing better to do but be bricked. Just as Zhang Chang went up on stage, a youth in white walked calmly past Zhang Chang. He had a folded fan in hand and a mild smile on his face. It was as if he was a wandering tourist. Upon seeing this youth, Zhang Chang was stunned for a moment. Just as he was wondering what the other party was going to do, he saw the youth wave his hand. His palm seemed magnetic as the token on the desk flew into the white-clothed youth's hand with a whoosh. If you don't want it, I'll take it for you. The youth in white smiled. He turned around, and with a pop of his fan, he slowly fluttered it. This youth looked very handsome and was like a piece of jade. However, he looked feminine and lacked a certain air of masculinity. Upon seeing this scene, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. How did he fetch things through the air? With thoughts in Yuan Qi injected into a magic weapon, then controlling it to kill people through telekinesis. Wasn't this something only warriors in the Yuan Foundation realm could do? This youth didn't look any older than 14 years old. He couldn't be at the Yuan Foundation realm or he would have been a national sensation. He's Lu Yuxing. Someone recognized the youth in white and said out loud. Oh. Lu Yuxing. Many had never seen Lu Yuxing in person, but they had heard of his name. Lu Yuxing may be ranked 10,006 on the Earth rankings, But everyone knew that those who went over the 10,000 place would charge up the rankings after the rookie placings were completed. It was normal for them to rush up a few thousand spots, and very common for them to end up being around the 4,000 to 5,000 spots on the Earth roll. So it's the son of Duke Lu. What he demonstrated earlier was the Lu family's secret technique, star-picking hand. Telekinesis was indeed something only Yuan Foundation realm warriors were capable of. Back when Yun chose the Heaven Upheaval Seal as his weapon, the referee had told Yun that only a Yuan Foundation realm warrior could control the Heaven Upheaval Seal and that Yun's cultivation level was lacking. Later, Yun really did not control the Heaven Upheaval Seal, but used it as a brick. Of course, Lu Yuxing had not broken through into the Yuan Foundation realm. But the limitation that other Purple Blood realm warriors had was not applicable to Lu Yuxing. No one knew what a cultivation technique that star-picking hand was. But just from being able to perform telekinesis, it was something shocking. In the Taiya Divine City, there were indeed many hidden dragons. Even some Purple Blood realm warriors had the means to do something only Yuan Foundation realm warriors could do. Lu Yuxing wants to challenge Yi Yun. A bald youth exclaimed in surprise. Lu Yuxing's reason for taking Yi Yun's challenge token was obvious. Lu Yuxing ranked 6th amongst the rookies due to his strength. This was completely different from Yi Yun. This was going to be interesting now that Lu Yuxing challenged Yi Yun. Challenge? When Lu Yuxing heard the bald youth's words, he found it harsh to the ear. Fighting Yi Yun with his stature was a lowering of his status, and he dared say the word challenge? Was it you who said it? Lu Yuxing said it softly, and without any apparent moves, the bald youth suddenly jerked. It was as if an invisible sword had been pointed at his eyebrows, causing him to have breathing difficulties and his heart stopped. Ah! Ah! The bald youth stretched his neck backwards. He pressed against his chest with great effort as if he was in great pain. Brother Zhang, what happened? Seeing the bald youth's odd behavior, his surrounding friends were alarmed. They rushed to check on the bald youth's situation. But at this time, the bald youth felt the pressure on his forehead relieve. That invisible killing intent subsided. The bald youth broke out into cold sweat. Till now, he still did not know what had happened. His strength was weak, and he came from a small family clan in one of the remote states. He ranked around 2,000 amongst the rookies and was one of those at the bottom. However, he should not have been so weak as to nearly be killed by Lu Yuxing. He did not even know what means the other party had used. You, the bald youth looked at Lu Yuxing in horror. What just happened? You just can't say whatever is on your mind without consequences. Lu Yuxing played with the fan in his hand and said it with a feminine voice. There's just someone who can't stand Yi Yun and paid me to finish him off. So, do you understand? Only then did people understand the reason why Lu Yuxing had punished the bald youth. He had found the word challenge insulting. He was to finish Yi Yun, not challenge Yi Yun. In most cases, the word challenge usually referred to someone inferior battling someone superior. Lu Yuxing closed his fan and through a distance of 9 meters, pressed on the bald youth's chest. He already felt that even if he won this match against Yi Yun, it would just add to Yi Yun's reputation. He wasn't pleased about this. Hence, when this bald youth said that, it made him more upset. The bald youth felt as if Lu Yuxing's fan was pressing against his chest, retarding his heartbeats. He said with difficulty, I understand. Only then did Lu Yuxing give a satisfactory nod. He looked at Zhang Chang, who had come to collect the challenge token for Yi Yun, and said, "The token is mine. As for the battle with Yi Yun, just admit defeat." Lu Yuxing said casually. Naturally, Zhang Chang had no way of disagreeing. He nodded like he was pounding garlic. "Yes, please take it." Lu Yuxing chuckled and played with Yi Yun's token twice before turning to walk out of the hall. The people inside the hall immediately gave way for Lu Yuxing to walk through. Who would dare to block Lu Yuxing's path? Only after seeing Lu Yuxing's back disappear into the night did people swallow a mouthful of saliva and whispered, "This guy, he is more arrogant than Yi Yun." Yi Yun had used a brick against the 4 bully lords and never used a proper weapon from the beginning to the end. To many, this was an act of arrogance. But compared to Lu Yuxing, Yi Yun would really be considered humble. He's arrogant. But he has the ability to be arrogant. To be ranked 6th amongst the rookies. If Yi Yun was excluded, Lu Yuxing is actually ranked 5th. And the Lu family's star-picking hand has a great reputation. How it works is a mystery because many of those who have seen that star-picking hand are already dead. Many family clans had secret cultivation techniques that they fiercely guarded. Even the powers and effects of these secret cultivation techniques were not known. Of course, to completely keep the powers and effects a secret was impossible. During competitions or fights, people would still see it. But this would result in those uninformed people who had little insight not understanding the moves. As such, the moves become even more mysterious and fearsome. Lu Yuxing said someone paid him to beat Yi Yun. It has to be Li Hong. After all, Yi Yun had made a huge bet in the Hongdao Association's betting pool. Li Hong would not just wait helplessly. I thought tomorrow's matches would end with Yi Yun's landslide victory again, but this would be interesting. We can see the elegant appearance of the star-picking hand. Many were looking forward to it, including the bald youth who had been abused by Lu Yuxing in public. He too wanted to know what Lu Yuxing's cultivation technique was. And how was Yi Yun to deal with Lu Yuxing? After a night without events, the Taiya Divine City's rookies surged to the arena upon daybreak. After cultivating for a night, Yi Yun still did not know what sort of opponents he would be facing today. Because Yi Yun had no challenge tokens to collect yesterday, he did not go to the hall. While on the road, Yi Yun noticed that many were looking at him and privately discussing something. As Yi Yun's strength was frightening, these people did not dare to point at Yi Yun. Their discussions were all through Yuan Qi transmissions. Yi Yun gave an odd look and touched his nose. What's going on? Yi Yun. You became famous again. From afar, Zhou Kuei walked towards Yi Yun with a silly smile. He had bet that Yi Yun would win more than 10 matches in a row yesterday. As such, he had won a large sum of dragon scale runes, so he was delighted. Earlier on, he felt that if he knew Yi Yun was so strong, he would have bet 20 consecutive victories for Yi Yun. This would result in him earning more. But today, he learned that Yi Yun had been eyed by Lu Yuxing. When Zhou Kuei was in the Xuanwu army, he had heard a general mention the new generation of heroes in the Taiya Divine Kingdom. At that time, the general had mentioned Lu Yuxing. He was a person with terrifying strength and had previously gone on the battlefield, killing others. Lu Yuxing was a proud person and even considered everyone beneath his notice. But this was built on the foundation of absolute strength. Upon hearing that Yi Yun was going to fight Lu Yuxing, Zhou Kuei was a bit delighted at his good luck. He was thankful that he did not bet on Yi Yun winning 20 matches. Whether Yi Yun was to win today's battle was still up in the air. Seeing Yi Yun's confused expression, Zhou Kuei said, "Brother Yi, do you not know? Today you will be fighting with Lu Yuxing." Chapter 223, Battling Lu Yuxing. Lu Yuxing? Upon hearing Zhou Kuei's words, Yi Yun became momentarily dazed. Clearly Zhou Kuei's words meant that Lu Yuxing was very strong, or else he would not have rushed over just to tell him that. Among the rookies, Yi Yun knew of Chu Xiaoran and Xiaoniu. As for the other strong rookies, he did not know anything about them. Yi Yun had no idea about any of the rookies after 4th place. This was because Yi Yun had only been picking herbs or cultivating ever since he came here. He was not aware of almost any of the events that had happened, so he knew very little about the well-known figures. Is Lu Yuxing very strong? Of course. He is the son of Duke Lu. He has already gone on the battlefield, he has even killed before. He's ranked 6th amongst the rookies. ranked 6th amongst the rookies? Upon hearing this ranking, what Yi Yun thought was simply okay. But seeing Zhou Kuei's expression, as if Lu Yuxing was a heaven-defying force, Yi Yun did not want to shock him, so he silently nodded. He echoed, then it must be someone whose strength is not bad. It's not only not bad. Lu Yuxing's star-picking hand has an uncanny attacking method. You must pay attention to it. It can kill a person from 100 paces away in an intangible way. Zhou Kuei knew some things about the star-picking hand, but his level of understanding was not very detailed. Star-picking hand? Of course, Yi Yun had never heard of this cultivation technique. To kill someone from 100 paces away in an intangible way sounded bizarre. But bizarre did not equate being powerful. He knew that the Taiya sacred technique was undoubtedly the #1 cultivation technique in the Taiya divine kingdom. Just from the extreme difficulty in obtaining the opportunity to cultivate it, or its cultivation difficulty, illustrated this point. Over the tens of millions of years, uncountable number of sages had learned the Taiya sacred technique. There were even those who had the capability to add their own understandings and enlightenment into the Taiya sacred technique. In fact, those who could add to the nomological truths in the Taiya sacred technique were the greatest sage-level experts. Figures of such levels were not someone that appeared in the Taiya divine kingdom every generation. Yi Yun arrived at the arena. There were a lot more people in the arena today compared to the previous day. Many of the second and third year cultivators in the Taiya divine city had come to watch today's matches. Yi Yun's outstanding performance the previous day had spread throughout the rookie circles in the Taiya divine city. Yi Yun's performance was still not something that attracted the attention of senior cultivators that had reached the Yuan Foundation realm, like Yang Xian and Yao Dao. But amongst the veterans who were ranked past 2,000 to 300, a person like Yi Yun was a potential threat to them. In less than a year, Yi Yun would be coming for their spot. It was always good to pay attention to a future opponent. He's Yi Yun. The moment Yi Yun appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of many. It could be said that Yi Yun barely counted as a prominent person in the Taiya divine city. Lu Yuxing has appeared. That's Lu Yuxing. With a slight commotion in the crowd, a youth in white strolled into the arena. Lu Yuxing was like a delicate jade, and extremely refined. His spotless clothes and shoes were white and crisp. Lu Yuxing only took a glance at Yi Yun, no longer looking at him after that. He sat down at his seat and began focusing. It was as if he was indifferent to everything around him, giving off an air of arrogance. Yi Yun silently used his spiritual energy to interface with the Heaven's Eyeball and secretly observed Lu Yuxing from a distance of over 30 meters. Having formed the Heaven's Eyeball, Yi Yun could gain a rough understanding of the Yuan Qi fluctuation within a person's body, and from that, infer a person's cultivation level. He should be in the entry stages of the late purple blood realm. Yi Yun felt that Lu Yuxing's cultivation level was just slightly higher than his own, so it was reasonable that he was in the entry stages of the late purple blood realm. The second day's competition for the rookie ranking matches officially began. Yi Yun's first few opponents immediately gave up, until Divine Wilderness Stage, 10,003, Yi Yun. 10,006, Lu Yuxing. Come on stage for the match. The referee shouted loudly on the Divine Wilderness Stage. They're up. There were a lot of people who were not paying attention to the ongoing matches and just meditated or discussed privately amongst themselves. But now, they all began to pay attention, looking straight at the Divine Wilderness Stage. Many amongst them had come to the arena just to see Yi Yun's and Lu Yuxing's match. Now, it had finally begun. Lu Yuxing's clothes fluttered in the wind. Like a graceful swan, he gently landed on the stage without kicking up any dust. Just this levitation art was an amazement to many. Purple Blood Warriors did not have the ability to fly, but Lu Yuxing's levitation art looked no different from flying. Yi Yun walked up on stage. He stood 30 meters away from Lu Yuxing and faced him. Lu Yuxing's hands were held behind his back, with his head slightly tilted up. He glanced at Yi Yun and calmly said, "Someone paid me 8,000 dragon scale runes to get me to break your winning streak. So me standing on this stage today is not because I'm interested in challenging you." While saying this, a sword appeared in Lu Yuxing's hand. This sword appeared like magic. Lu Yuxing casually swung the sword and pointed the blade at Yi Yun, but the sword was still within its scabbard. Lu Yuxing did not unsheath his sword and said, "Let's begin. If you can make me unsheath my sword in 10 moves, and if you're able to survive 3 of my hits, then I'll let you see the Lu family's secret technique, star-picking hand." The Lu family's ancestors had instructed that the star-picking hand was not to be easily used, as they did not want people to see the effects of this cultivation technique. So if it was possible, Lu Yuxing did not want to use the star-picking hand to finish Yi Yun. What he said was clearly heard by everyone present. Lu Yuxing was really arrogant. He did not want to unsheath his sword while facing Yi Yun. Yi Yun was not a pushover. By previously defeating the 4 bully lords, he had already proven his extraordinary strength. But Lu Yuxing still said those words even after seeing his matches. That meant that the strength Yi Yun revealed did not pose a threat to him. The result of this battle depended on how much hidden strength Yi Yun had. If Yi Yun had nothing else hidden, then he was bound to lose. Lu Yuxing was indeed terrifying. Among the 2,000 or so rookies that came to the Taiya Divine City, they were all said to be elites. But even amongst them, there were huge gaps. The experts amongst the rookies were not weaker than some of the senior cultivators that had been training in the Taiya Divine City for more than 3 years. "Force you to unsheath your sword within 10 moves?" Yi Yun smiled. His right hand touched the interspatial ring on his left hand's ring finger. With a flip of his hand, he had taken out the heaven upheaval seal. Seeing Yi Yun's action, many stared for a while before recovering. Heavens! Are we seeing right? Even at this time, Yi Yun was still going to use the brick? Was he planning to use the brick to settle the match with Lu Yuxing? Yi Yun planned to break down Lu Yuxing, a person of great stature, like the 4 bully lords. Was he mad? With the heaven upheaval seal in hand, Yi Yun loosened up his wrist and said, "If you can make me unsheath my saber in 10 moves, and if you're able to survive 3 of my hits, then I'll let you see a cultivation technique I recently learned." Yi Yun returned Lu Yuxing's words back at him without much modification. Lu Yuxing froze. "What did you say?" Lu Yuxing's forehead popped a green vein, his face turning livid. He was eccentric enough. He knew that Yi Yun was actually very strong, but Lu Yuxing's character was as such. But he never imagined that Yi Yun was even more eccentric than him. He dared to speak to him in such a manner. Lu Yuxing did not unsheath his sword, but it did not mean he would not use his sword. Even a sword placed within its scabbard was much more powerful than a brick. "Making you unsheath your saber in 10 moves and you'll show me your cultivation technique?" Lu Yuxing laughed with anger. He was willing to demonstrate the Lu family's star-picking hand to Yi Yun, yet Yi Yun used the same words back at him. But what cultivation technique could he have that could compare with the star-picking hand? Lu Yuxing felt that he and the star-picking hand had been insulted by Yi Yun. Courting death. In his outrage, Lu Yuxing attacked. The calm divine wilderness stage in the middle of the arena was immediately stirred up by a gust of violent wind. Sword sheath soared up and shot out without restraint. Lu Yuxing appeared in front of Yi Yun like a ghost. This violent wind was a result of his movement skills. It was a terrifying speed. Phew! Lu Yuxing stabbed out straight at Yi Yun's neck. A sheathed sword would be missing out on its attack power, but with Lu Yuxing's Yuan Qi infused within it, this stab's strength was also extremely frightening. Sha! 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 Before the blade arrived, the stirring sword Qi had already sliced the purple tungsten floor like a sharp sword, causing shocking sword marks to appear on it. The purple tungsten was extremely hard, but the sword Qi still left a mark. It was obvious how strong Lu Yuxing's attack was. Seeing this sword coming, Yi Yun retreated and used the heaven upheaval seal in his hand to block. Ding! A metallic clang sounded out. Yi Yun felt the heaven upheaval seal tremble. The unrestrained sword chi had impacted the heaven upheaval seal, hitting it directly. It was blocked. Many were greatly surprised. Yi Yun had used the heaven upheaval seal to block Lu Yuxing's sword chi. The first move was over. Ha! A hideous look flashed within Lu Yuxing's eyes. A short and small weapon like the heaven upheaval seal could barely be used to hit people, but to use it as a shield was almost impossible. But Yi Yun actually managed to use it to block his attack. Locking on mountains. Lu Yuxing's move changed and a rain of blade beams poured down on Yi Yun. The dazzling blade beams were immersed within the wind. Only the beams could be seen, not the sword itself. It was hard for people to imagine that an unsheathed sword would be able to send out so many blade beams. These blade beams had covered a radius of 9 meters. Within these 9 meters, almost everything was under Lu Yuxing's absolute authority. Yi Yun was surrounded inside this absolute territory. Being inside this region, he could be attacked by endless sword attacks, and in a blink of an eye, 100 stabs could be sent out. Competing in speed? Yi Yun smiled. He had never truly been afraid when it came to speed. Chapter 224, Extreme Speed. Lu Yuxing's sword was too fast. It was so fast that even the strong cultivators present had trouble seeing the trajectories of Lu Yuxing's sword. Even if one could see the moves of the other party, it did not mean that one could dodge the attacks. Now that the moves could not be seen, how was one to dodge them? Even though Lu Yuxing's sword chi was situated far away, many felt an infinite sense of killing intent. It was as if the intent reached as far as their own eyebrows. Zhou Kuei, Song Zijuan, and company all broke into cold sweat for Yi Yun. Sha! 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 In that split moment, dozens of blade beams pierced through Yi Yun's body. Before people could react in alarm, they saw Yi Yun's figure slowly dissipate before completely vanishing. What was stabbed was an afterimage. As Lu Yuxing's sword carried on moving downwards, Yi Yun's body had also disappeared along with his afterimage. He had merged within the wind and could no longer be seen. Although he had disappeared, people could see Yi Yun's afterimage flash every now and then, before being destroyed by a blade beam. Lu Yuxing's sword was everywhere. Without any blind spots available, it was stabbing at Yi Yun. This sword speed was so fast that gave the people an impression that Yi Yun would be stabbed by the sword wind at the very next moment. However, what Lu Yuxing struck was always an afterimage. In a field that was completely filled with swords, dodging was no doubt much more difficult than attacking. Terrifying. This Yi Yun dodges Lu Yuxing's sword by an extremely small amount every time. How can this be possible? There's no dodging space amongst such a dense amount of blade beams. Someone could not help but ask. In this net of sword beams, within the huge mesh, how was one to avoid them all without shrinking one's body? Someone shook his head and said, "You're wrong. Lu Yuxing's blade beams might seem like a web, but it's just an illusion from its speed. He is still slashing each sword one by one. There is a first and there is a second, so Yi Yun can completely dodge it." A sword was almost always faster than a human. For a person to dodge that many slashes, one had to reduce one's range of motion. And Yi Yun was no doubt doing just that. From this, many became even more alarmed. As Yi Yun slowly unfolded his movement techniques in front of them, many finally understood Yi Yun's state. This is the large success stage of minute subtlety. This kid has reached the large success stage of minute subtlety. People looked at each other. Large success stage of minute subtlety. This not only needed a strong foundation and a powerful body, it also needed extraordinary perceptivity to accomplish. Xu Xiaoran gently squeezed her own hand. Her fingers hitting the back of her hand constantly. Back during the battles with the four bully lords, Yi Yun had shown his outstanding talent in movement, but it was not this dramatic. It's hard to believe that he came from the Cloud Wilderness. This world is so big, with so many elites. Chu Xiaoran muttered. Beside her, Xiaonyou also sighed, we really can't look down on the heroes under the sky. In the ring, Lu Yuxing was attacking and Yi Yun was dodging. The battle had reached its climax. Yi Yun felt as if he had returned to the Frost Metal Blood Balls array back in the Divine Capital. He had previously used the Frost Metal Blood Balls to hone his movement skills. But the Frost Metal Blood Balls were inanimate, so in terms of their adaptability in attacking, they were inferior to Lu Yuxing. But Lu Yuxing's attack speed was not up to Yi Yun's satisfaction. It's not fast enough. Your name is Lu Yuxing, right? How many attacks have you used? Just as Yi Yun flew past Lu Yuxing, a faint voice entered Lu Yuxing's ears, nearly making him vomit blood. Lu Yuxing had previously said that he wanted to see if Yi Yun could force him to unsheath his sword in 10 moves. Locking on mountains could send out 10 stabs in a flash, which could be considered one move. But even so, Lu Yuxing had long exceeded 10 moves. Yi Yun and Lu Yuxing had already been fighting for nearly a minute. How many slashes did Lu Yuxing make? It was simply uncountable. After missing for so long and being ridiculed by Yi Yun, Lu Yuxing was greatly angered. You're courting death. Clang! With a clear sound, the scabbard flew out from the sword in Lu Yuxing's hand. The shiny blade slashed at Yi Yun. Lu Yuxing had finally unsheathed his sword. His previous arrogant words had now completely turned into an insult against him. After Lu Yuxing unsheathed his sword, his attack speed greatly improved. However, Yi Yun was still dodging. Even though Lu Yuxing had unsheathed his sword, Yi Yun had still not drawn out his saber. Yi Yun, you. Lu Yuxing's eyes were almost burning. He had always felt that as the son of Duke, it was an insult to his stature to fight Yi Yun, a bumpkin from the Cloud Wilderness. Hence, he did not want to unsheath his sword or use Star-Picking Hand to prove that he and Yi Yun were of different levels. But unexpectedly, the situation was reversed. Lu Yuxing had unsheathed his sword, but Yi Yun was still holding onto a brick. This was going too far. Lu Yuxing was really mad. His attack speed was getting faster and faster, but he still couldn't even touch the sleeves of Yi Yun. Upon seeing this, the audience stood agape. It was unexpected that the battle would reach such a state. Lu Yuxing has already unsheathed his sword, yet he still can't hit Yi Yun. Many were in disbelief. Many had thought that Lu Yuxing had a greater chance of winning, but now, he was completely suppressed by Yi Yun. Your sword is also not very fast. Yi Yun's voice came from behind. When Lu Yuxing heard this, he was incensed, but he could do nothing to Yi Yun. At this point, Lu Yuxing suddenly felt a wind behind his head. A murderous intent came attacking. With the brick in hand, Yi Yun had aimed at Lu Yuxing's head, fiercely slamming it down. Yi Yun, you. Lu Yuxing's handsome face was already completely distorted. Dang! With a twist of his blade, Lu Yuxing managed to block Yi Yun's brick in the nick of time. But after Yi Yun absorbed the primordial herb's energy and had mastered the first level of the Taya sacred technique, his physical strength had reached an extremely ridiculous level. No matter what weapon Yi Yun was holding, it could still manifest unparalleled strength. Lu Yuxing only felt a surge of energy transmitted over. The shock caused his arm to go numb and pain in his palm. With nowhere for this force to dissipate, it made Lu Yuxing almost lose his balance. As a result, his fast-moving body was sent flying by Yi Yun's brick strike. Dang! 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 Lu Yuxing landed and took 3 steps backwards. His blood was in turmoil. His movement technique had been broken by Yi Yun. Lu Yuxing's face turned red. He had never been so ashamed in his entire life. A kid from the Cloud Wilderness actually knocked him with a brick. And not only did he knock him, he had knocked him to the point where his blood was in turmoil and he had to retreat 3 steps. Lu Yuxing felt that, as the son of a duke and as a prominent figure amongst the imperial capital's younger generation, it was an insult to be hit by a brick. Not only that, he did not even manage to parry it. The surrounding warriors were at a loss for words. In their minds, Yi Yun had sprung up to a mystic realm. Just a brick was uncrackable by others. Even Lu Yuxing had failed to make Yi Yun use his saber. Terrifying. Yi Yun, you have really annoyed me. Lu Yuxing's eyes turned red. He swiped his interspatial ring and he circulated the yuan qi within his body. It was as if his whole person had transformed. The feminine air that originally lingered on Lu Yuxing's body had greatly vanished. What replaced it felt deep and sharp. It was as if a desolate beast hid within Lu Yuxing's body. Seeing Lu Yuxing in his current state, many were briefly stunned. But the next moment, they suddenly understood what Lu Yuxing was going to do. It's the star-picking hand. Lu Yuxing was finally going to use star-picking hand. At this point, if Lu Yuxing did not use all of his abilities, he was destined to be defeated by Yi Yun. Many of them had previously heard of the famous star-picking hand, but they did not know the effects of the star-picking hand. Seeing Lu Yuxing about to finally use this secret technique from the Duke Lu family, they couldn't help but become excited. Would the star-picking hand be able to reverse the situation? Yi Yun looked at Lu Yuxing with the heaven upheaval seal in hand. He too wanted to know how this rumored to be famous cultivation technique would compare with the Taiya sacred technique. Picking star death blow. With a growl, Lu Yuxing attacked. With some tiny yuan qi fluctuations, Lu Yuxing's sword quickly whistled through the air towards Yi Yun. At the same time, more than 10 small swords flew out from Lu Yuxing's interspatial ring. Each sword was about half a foot long. These small swords were not thrown out by Lu Yuxing, but were flying towards Yi Yun by themselves. At that moment, it was as if these small swords were alive. Chapter 225, With One Brick in Hand, to Rule the World. Flying Swords. When Yi Yun saw all the small swords flying at him from all direction, he was stunned. He originally thought that the star-picking hand was some sort of finger technique, but it was unexpectedly a sword technique. A sword technique, but it's called star-picking hand? One main sword and 12 small swords, a total of 13 swords shot into the sky. A large number of them did not fly towards Yi Yun, but flew to the empty spaces around Yi Yun. When the small swords flew somewhere close to Yi Yun's side, they abruptly changed directions in mid-air. The sword tips began pointing towards Yi Yun from all directions. The flying swords can change directions. Upon seeing this scene, the warriors present were alarmed. To control a weapon to change directions mid-air with Yuan Qi was a technique used by Yuan Foundation realm warriors. But on further thought, Lu Yuxing had previously used one move to send Yi Yun's token flying towards him at the arena hall. It was apparently one of Lu Yuxing's special abilities. The 13 swords came at Yi Yun from all directions. This was an attack with no room to dodge. Even with minute subtlety, it would be extremely difficult to dodge them. Everyone stared wide-eyed at Yi Yun and the 13 swords. They were afraid they would miss this wonderful scene that was filled with suspense. As people's attention was being attracted by the flying swords, Lu Yuxing secretly did a finger seal. He had circulated his yuan qi to its maximum. All the energy was focused on his right hand's index and middle finger. Both his fingers turned emerald green in an instant. Seeing the 13 swords surrounding Yi Yun, who looked like he was struggling to handle them, Lu Yuxing flashed a savage look and thought, "Die. It's impossible for you to figure out that the flying swords are just fake moves. This is the real star-picking hand. Picking star, death blow." Lu Yuxing held out his fingers and an invisible yuan qi force merged with the empty air before shooting towards Yi Yun. This qi force was too well hidden. It could not be seen. It was nearly indistinguishable from a regular, subtle fluctuation in the air. Like a ripple in space with incredible speed, it shot towards Yi Yun. At the same time, the 13 swords stabbed at Yi Yun from all directions. The picking star deathblow's whistling was hidden within the sonic booms of the flying swords. Its killing intent was also masked by the blade beams. As such, Lu Yuxing's real killing blow was perfectly immersed within the 13 flying swords. People believed the flying swords were the killing blow, but in reality, it was Lu Yuxing's secret force attack. Ding! 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 Yi Yun waved the heaven upheaval seal, fending off the flying swords in the air. The razor-sharp flying swords posed no threat under Yi Yun's counters. With a swipe of the heaven upheaval seal, they were all shot down. They seemed impressive but lacked any substance. Even the main sword was smashed down by the heaven upheaval seal. What? Seeing Yi Yun knock away the main sword, the audience stared with wide-open eyes. The killing move, the star-picking hand that everyone was looking forward to, which took Lu Yuxing so long to prepare for before shooting out, was blocked just like that. As the audience was in shock, a grin formed on Lu Yuxing's face. All his Yuan Qi had been infused into that sure kill attack, so the Yuan Qi within the flying swords was of course weak, but Yi Yun was already preoccupied with them. That death blow had flown straight towards Yi Yun's heart and was no doubt on target. Even if he had to experience jail time for killing Yi Yun, Lu Yuxing would not regret it. Hit! As Lu Yuxing shouted out in his heart, just as the strike was hitting Yi Yun's heart, Yi Yun grinned. He held his hands together, and due to the extreme speed, his arms formed a series of afterimages. The Yuan Qi within his body exploded. The heaven upheaval seal was placed across his chest. Boom! With a loud ring, Lu Yuxing's attack hit the brick surface of the heaven upheaval seal. A huge aftershock from the powerful impact caused a turbulent airflow. As such, Yi Yun's body was lifted high up in the air. The impact was so great that even for Yi Yun, he felt his arms go numb. Such a great force. The Lu family's secret technique, the star-picking hand, sure isn't bad. This thought flashed in Yi Yun's mind as he stabilized his body within the air. Everyone who saw the scene was completely shocked. What happened? All the flying swords had been fended off by Yi Yun, but where did that huge Yuan Qi explosion come from at the end? And the person who was most shocked was Lu Yuxing. When he saw the final scene, he turned dumbfounded. How did the victory that was almost in hand end in such a result? How was this possible? How could he be so fast as to block all 13 swords and also block his picking star deathblow? The picking star deathblow hit at almost the same time as the other 13 swords. He was actually fast enough to ward off all of them. Not only that, he actually discovered the force attack hidden within the blade beams. Lu Yuxing could not accept this. All his energy had been in that one strike, yet it had been parried away by Yi Yun. He had not even forced Yi Yun to draw out his saber. To him, this was an extreme insult and setback. And at this moment, he suddenly found that the Yi Yun he was looking at had disappeared. Lu Yuxing felt like he had been struck by lightning. His limbs turned cold and slow to react. A strong sense of unease surged to his mind. No! Lu Yuxing cried out in his heart. At the last moment, he struggled to leap forward. But having used the star-picking hand, he had expended too much of his Yuan Qi. The instantaneous burst of speed had already slowed down. It was too late. Yi Yun appeared behind Lu Yuxing like a ghost. His eyes were focused and his foot tip touched the ground. His body was still in the air when he stretched out his hand. And in his hand was the shiny brick. With his hands raised, the brick came crushing down. Dong! A crisp sound rang. Yi Yun's solid brick and smacked Lu Yuxing in the back of his head. Lu Yuxing's body trembled. All he felt was an intense pain behind his head while his eyes saw stars. His whole body turned stiff. He was like someone suffering from Alzheimer's. With great difficulty, he turned his head slowly towards Yi Yun. At this moment, Lu Yuxing's pupils had lost their focus. However, he still struggled to see Yi Yun clearly. He struggled to prevent his body from falling. He could not fall, at least, not due to a brick. This was the only thought that was supporting Lu Yuxing's ability to stand. He finally managed to focus his eyes with great difficulty. All he saw was Yi Yun's blurry figure. At this time, Yi Yun had already raised his hands again. That shiny brick flashed before Lu Yuxing's eyes. F***ku. Lu Yuxing's mouth moved, as he tried to curse. But just as he let out half a syllable, he saw an overwhelming gold beam slam down. Dawn! Lu Yuxing's vision suddenly turned dark. He could no longer see anything. His heart was filled with great anger and humiliation. But ultimately, he still could not take on that simple but brutal move. With that, he sprawled on the ground with his limbs spread out. Pawing! The sound of a dead dog that crashed to the ground was the only sound that could be heard in the entire arena. Except for that, there was complete silence. Everyone in the audience was stunned. They felt like their hearts had been trampled by 10,000 near-horned beasts with mud-stained hoofs. It was as if that vibration had caused them to be in a daze. Heavens! This must be a joke. Even Lu Yuxing had been taken down by Yi Yun with a brick. Brick! Brick! A brick can be this ridiculous. This was really, with one brick in hand, to rule the world. It was really, if God was in the way, I'll slaughter him. If Buddha stops me, I'll slaughter him too. Everyone looked at Lu Yuxing, whose head had a huge blue-black bump in the ring. Their eyes were full of pity. A son of a duke had been taken down with a brick by a bumpkin from the Cloud Wilderness. One could imagine the effect if this piece of news was spread back to the capital. Lu Yuxing was a well-known figure amongst the capital circles. He was not only strong, but he was handsome and dignified. He gave people a feeling of a pretty boy. Many girls from the capital were so infatuated with Lu Yuxing that they were willing to die for him. If Lu Yuxing gave them a glance, it was to die for. In the hearts of many girls, Lu Yuxing was like a male god who came down from the heavens. But now, this so-called male god had been smashed into such a state by Yi Yun with a brick. Seeing his messy hair, and the spectacular bruise on his head, where was the slightest hint that he was a male god? Many of the capital's young masters, who were jealous of Lu Yuxing, secretly used a disc array to take a picture of Lu Yuxing's current state. They planned to send these disc arrays back to the capital, to let the girls see how glorious Lu Yuxing was in the Tai Divine City. Just imagining the scene of these girls seeing the image in the disc array made these youths chuckle sinisterly. It had to be said that men, as masculine animals, had an innate nature of being jealous of those richer, stronger, more handsome and popular than them. When these images were sent back to the capital, it would be a wonder how Lu Yuxing would ever be able to hang his face amongst the capital's circle again. Once they thought of this, these people experienced gleeful joy. At this time, Yi Yun had returned to his own seat. Zhou Kuei looked as if he was looking at an ancient emperor when facing Yi Yun. He swallowed his saliva, and was tempted to say the words, "You are too domineering." In the end, Zhou Kuei finally muttered these undignified words, but Yi Yun just casually answered, "It was all right. It took me some effort to smash him unconscious. It wasn't that easy." To use the brick against Lu Yuxing, and without using the radiant sun chi, Yi Yun found that his victory was indeed quite difficult. But when these words fell into the spectators' ears, they nearly collapsed. You used a brick to smash a duke's son unconscious, and you even say it was not that easy. Are you only satisfied if you could easily smash Lu Yuxing as if he was a dog? Zhou Kuei decided to simply shut his mouth. He felt that speaking another word with Yi Yun would incur another shock. By the way, brother Yi Yun, what was the explosion at the end? Song Zijuan finally interjected. He was curious from earlier on. He had looked carefully at Lu Yuxing's final star-picking hand. But still, he did not understand much. All he knew was that Lu Yuxing had a technique that seemed to be able to control flying swords. Chapter 226, Su Qingyun. Song Zijuan could not tell what the real killing move of the star-picking hand was. Many of the youths present couldn't tell either. This made Song Zijuan feel like a failure. There was a saying that a bystander sees through everything, but him being a bystander could not understand what happened. If Lu Yuxing had used the star-picking hand against him, the outcome was obvious. He wouldn't even know how he died. Yi Yun said, the star-picking hand is a finger technique that is hidden within the sword technique. The sword technique was just a farce to cover it up. The essence of the star-picking hand was to condense Yuan Qi. This Yuan Qi would then be able to move objects, and could also be used to kill an enemy. The two words star-picking described the result of cultivating the star-picking hand to an extreme. One could use this Yuan Qi to pick the stars from the sky. Of course, this was just an exaggeration. Under unexpected conditions, the star-picking hand indeed did wonders. But if the other opponent was prepared against it, its effectiveness would be greatly reduced. That was why the Lu family tried so hard to hide the effects of the star-picking hand attack. This made many inexperienced young warriors unclear on how the star-picking hand worked. Lu Yuxing's sneak attack on Yi Yun was well done in all aspects. Unfortunately, Yi Yun had not only formed the Heaven's Eyeball, he also had the purple crystal within his body. He was extremely sensitive to energy. Lu Yuxing's intangible force attack was invisible to the naked eye, but in Yi Yun's vision, this intangible force attack was practically like a flame in the night sky. How could such an obvious attack catch Yi Yun by surprise? This was why Lu Yuxing was doomed to fail. So that's the reason, after hearing Yi Yun's words and thinking back to the scenes when Yi Yun fought against the star-picking hand, Song Zijuan finally understood the principles behind the star-picking hand. In fact, cultivation techniques that employed sneak attacks were not the best. When it reached the levels of sages, with their heaven's eye fully opened, their senses would be so sensitive that it would not be easy to attack them in a sneaky fashion. Yi Yun sat in his own seat. In the following matches, no one dared to challenge Yi Yun. Even Lu Yuxing was beaten to a pulp by Yi Yun with his one brick. What was there for them to fight? Going on stage with Yi Yun was just asking to be beaten. Having spent a large sum of dragon scale runes to make themselves unhappy, those who had previously challenged Yi Yun were too deep in tears. Yi Yun sat in his seat, and every time it came to his turn, he did not need to stand up because the other party would immediately throw in the towel. Having beaten Lu Yuxing, Yi Yun won 15 matches in a row. Following that, it was 18 matches, 19 matches, 20 matches. Without any doubt, Yi Yun won 20 consecutive matches, winning him the bet with the Hongdao Association. Li Hong's face had already frozen up. What else could he say at this point? Among the rookies, Yi Yun had already reached the top. The only people who could compete with Yi Yun was probably Chu Xiaoran or Qianniu. Li Hong could only admit his failure. Brother Hong, we sure lost miserably this time. A Hongdao Association member said to Lu Yuxing with a gloomy expression. He had lost 1,200 dragon scale runes. These dragon scale runes were obtained from pawning his items and borrowing from his friends. Now that the match results were set, those friends came to press for payment. After all, the Taiyao Divine City did not protect any loans between cultivators. Thinking of that sum of dragon scale runes, a Hongdao Association member felt bitter. How was he to return it? Li Hong stayed silent. He estimated that in the next few matches, Yi Yun's wealth would accumulate to more than 100,000 dragon scale runes. A rookie managed to earn 100,000 dragon scale runes in the Taiyao Divine City within a few months. It was a heaven-defying feat. Li Hong was correct in his estimations. After the third day's matches ended, the dragon scale runes Yi Yun accumulated had officially exceeded 100,000. Adding the dragon scale runes he had previously spent, Yun's total of dragon scale runes reached 120,000. This amount of dragon scale runes allowed him to enter the Man Roll of Honor. The Man Roll of Honor's method of calculating was to add up a person's present dragon scale runes amount and all the expenditures they'd previously made in the 10,000 pagoda and the various cultivation grounds in the Tai A Divine City. With the total amount, one was ranked on the Man Roll of Honor. Glory points were not included in the Man Roll of Honor. This was because the Man Roll of Honor assessed the cultivator's ability to earn wealth in the future. As for glory points, most of it was awarded to cultivators after they completed an achievement. It did not embody the ability to earn wealth, so it was not included. Since the Man Roll of Honor calculated the total accumulation of wealth, it was more advantageous the longer someone stayed in the Tai A Divine City. Typically, a cultivator who had lasted in the Tai A Divine City for 2 to 3 years with reasonable strength would earn about 100 to 200 dragon scale runes a day. This added up to about 40,000 to 50,000 dragon scale runes a year. Yun's 120,000 dragon scale runes was no doubt number one amongst the rookies. Even among the second and third year cultivators, Yun exceeded a vast majority of them. Now, Yun's ranking on the Man Roll of Honor was around 6,000, somewhere in the middle. It was a first to reach a ranking of 6,000 in 3 months for the past few centuries in the Tai A Divine City. In time, Yun's reputation in the Tai A Divine City became even more prominent. Many of the powerful senior cultivators began to pay attention to Yun. Initially, they thought Yun had only good luck, but now, by using his Heaven Upheaval seal to put down Lu Yuxing, it proved his terrifying potential. Such a person was bound to skyrocket in the future. Are you Yun? On the third night, after the arena's competition finished, Yun, Zhou Kuei, Song Zijuan and company went to have dinner. A youth with curly hair appeared before Yun. Oh? Yun glanced at the youth. He saw a faint smile on the other party's face. He looked extremely friendly. It's me, Yun said. Ha! Nice to meet you. The curled hair youth cupped his hands at Yun. My name is Lan Bai. I'm from the Chu royal residence. I had previously reported Brother Yi's news to my family. Our elder is very interested in Brother Yi. In a few more months, there will be a short vacation for the rookies. I wonder if Brother Yi would have the interest to come to our Chu royal residence for a visit. While saying that, the curled hair youth handed Yun a jade scroll. Yun was stunned for a moment. He interfaced his spiritual energy within the jade scroll and scanned through the jade scroll's contents. He immediately understood the curled hair youth's purpose. He was representing the Chu royal residence to pull him in. The letter promised many benefits to Yun. A mid-sized city fiefdom under the jurisdiction of the Chu royal residence, a large tract of arable land, a luxurious mansion and nearly 1,000 servants. Every year, the Chu royal residence would provide Yun with a considerable amount of elixirs, relics, a variety of armor, weapons and magical items. As for the last line, the Chu royal residence even promised to give 7 stunning beauties to Yun after his 15th birthday as his concubines. And the condition was for Yun to be a guest of the Chu royal residence. Yun was stunned. He had been roped in. This was really the first time he had encountered such a thing. Although Zhou Kuei and Song Zijuan, who were standing beside Yun, did not know the contents of Yun's jade scroll, they could easily guess that the other party was roping Yun in. Their hearts were filled with envy. This was the difference between a top genius and an average genius. Yun was being snatched up after being in the Tai A Divine City for 3 months. How is it? Are you satisfied? The curled hair youth rubbed his hands, awaiting Yun's reply. However, at this moment, a pleasant male voice rang out. It gave the feeling of a fresh spring breeze. Lan Bai, it's been a while since I've seen you. Why haven't you improved at all? Here you are cheating rookies again. Yun turned around in shock. All he saw was a green-shirted youth walking over. This youth looked 18 years old. His eyebrows looked sharp, his teeth were white, and he had a heroic aura. Seeing the green-shirted youth, Lan Bai's face immediately turned ugly. He opened his mouth and said with a dry tone, Su Qingyun. Oh. Su Qingyun. Upon hearing this name, Yi Yun was shocked. Fourth on the heaven roll of honor, Su Qingyun was him. Yi Yun had a strong impression on Su Qingyu. He was ranked top 5 in both the heaven and earth rankings. Su Qingyun was already in the Taiya Divine City for 5 years, and this year was his last year. He was a senior cultivator to the very core. Song Zijuan and Zhou Kuei were stunned. To rookies like them, Su Qingyun's stature was too high. They had no chance of interacting with him. The recent rookie ranking competition, which was filled with shocking events, had many events that made the headlines, attracted many to the arena to take a look no matter who was competing. But to those who ranked in the top 100 of the heaven and earth rolls of honor, such a competition was nothing. There was no reason for them to pay heed. This was because the difference between their strength and the rookies were too great. The curled-hair youth laughed without any humor and smiled, saying, Brother Su must be joking. I'm not cheating any rookies. Ah. Su Qingyun swept the jade scroll in Yi Yun's hands. In a blink of an eye, he finished reading the contents within. He shook his head with disgust and said, This again. Giving such small benefits to cheat rookies into signing a soul contract with your Chu royal residence. You guys sure calculated it well. Oh? Soul contract? Yi Yun quickly thought. Just from the name, he could roughly guess what it was. It appeared that the benefits offered by the curled-hair youth was on condition of signing a soul contract. This curled-hair youth may not have explained the soul contract clearly, but Yi Yun was better. He was mature in his thinking, and he had ambitious goals, so he was not easily fooled. Other rookies, who were just 13 or 14 years old, would have poor discernment. Together with Supreme Beauty X cultivation slaves and all sorts of possible temptations, it was not impossible to be conned. In the Taiya Divine City, besides fighting, other things can also be sinister. Yi Yun shook his head in his mind. When the curled-hair youth came forward with a friendly smile, Yi Yun could not completely tell what the other party was up to. You better leave this place immediately, or else. Before Su Qingyun finished his words, the curled-hair youth laughed without any humor and said, Brother Su, my bad. I'll disappear right now. After saying this, the curled-hair youth bowed and retreated. Yi Yun glanced at Su Qingyun with surprise. This Su Qingyun didn't seem to have the airs of an expert. Chapter 227, Li Xiao Association. Thank you, Brother Su. Yi Yun cupped his hands at Su Qingyun. Su Qingyun shook his head and said, It's a small matter. I just cannot stand seeing the Chu royal residents doing such despicable acts. Su Qingyun's carefree attitude gave Yi Yun a pleasant impression. What is a soul contract? Yi Yun asked. It was best to be wary of others, so knowing an additional tidbit of information would always be better. Su Qingyun explained, in some ancient family clans, they have many types of contracts. Once the contract is signed, it will be a soul-binding one. There is no way of removing it. Some of the high-handed contracts can even make you a slave. You would completely lose your own will. Lan Bai, the person from before, wanted you to sign a contract that wasn't that terrible. If it was, the Taiya Divine City would not sit idly by, but, once the contract had been signed, you would have to become a servant in the Chu royal residence for several years. There were many unfair terms included within it. The Chu royal residence has eyed your potential. The benefits they offered to you may look good now, but once your strength reaches an extraordinary level, the Chu royal residence could trap you for centuries with this contract. They would make you do a lot of things for them. Thanks to Brother Su's tip, I have broadened my horizons. Besides Yi Yun, Zhou Kuei and Song Zijuan also felt that they had benefited greatly too. They had to be extremely careful when signing any contract in the future, otherwise, they would suffer the consequences. Little brother-y, I am also from the Jinlong Wei and I can be considered your senior. In the future, if you have any problems, just come look for me. Also, this old brother wants to give you a heads up. Your future is limitless. Do not sell yourself cheaply for some immediate benefits. Do not frivolously sign contracts, especially those from the large family clans. Amongst the rookies, Yi Yun was at the top. This implied that in the next 5 years in the Tai Divine City, Yi Yun would likely reach the Heaven Rolls top 5. Typical cultivators in the Tai Divine City, who attained a position in the Heaven Rolls top 5, had a great possibility of being one of the best human lords if they did not falter in the future. Upon reaching this stage, they would receive attention from all of the various large factions in the Tai Divine Kingdom. Wealth and noble titles would be at their fingertips. Of course, such talents were impossible to rope in with mere wealth and titles of nobility. To rope them in, the factions would have to use cultivation techniques or other treasures. Su Qingyun said, if you wish to join a faction, you can consider joining an association. There is much more freedom in this. This older brother is from the Linxiao Association. If you are interested, I can introduce you. Su Qingyun casually said this. But by the side, Zhou Kuei and Song Zijuan were secretly alarmed. The Linxiao Association, it was the true #1 association in the Tai Divine City. Its influential power was even larger than the Luohua Association's power. The Luohua Association had many people, but its quality and talent was lacking. It was allegedly set up by Luo Huar on a whim. Due to Luo Huar's extreme popularity, many young elites rushed to join the association because of her name. Later on, Luo Huar gave up control over the association and she began researching the Desolate Heaven technique by herself. The Luohua Association was run by key personnel after that. As for the true elites, most of them chose to go to the Linxiao Association. This included Li Xiao and the Tai twin heroes Qiao brothers. The Linxiao Association had few people, because they only accepted the best elites. Zhou Kuei felt that it would be difficult for Yi Yun to join the Linxiao Association in his present position. He still lacked the qualifications. Therefore, he was surprised to find Su Qingyun appreciating Yi Yun that much. Thank you for Brother Su's appreciation. Yi Yun cupped his hands. In fact, joining an association wasn't too bad. There were no obligations. Also, with people backing him, it would prevent other associations from bullying him. It was the 5th day of the rookie ranking competitions. By this day, all the rookie battles had been completed. The rookies had a certain understanding of their own strength and their corresponding ranking. Many rookies were now ranked beyond 10,000. They knew where they stood, so they were not dissatisfied with it. Having just recently arrived in the Tai Divine City, the people they were competing against were elites. The rookies had a much shorter cultivation time than the others, and they were younger than the others. What did the rookies have that would make them overcome this difference? They could only take it step by step in a slow fashion. However, there were some monstrous figures amongst the rookies who had outstanding talent. These people would not stick to their own spot. To them, the 5th day of the rookie competition was when the real fight began. On this day, they could challenge the senior cultivators that were ranked higher than them. Those who had been in the Tai Divine City for 2 to 3 years were their targets. To the rookies, these matches were much more exciting than the rookie battles. They wanted to see what strength the senior cultivators possessed. As such, the challenge battles against the senior cultivators began. The grade of the matches were completely different from the ones in the past few days. Those rookies who ranked in the top 100 to the top 20 came forward to challenge senior cultivators who were in the top 8,000, and even in the top 6,000. The battles were in full swing. However, although the experts amongst the rookies fought beautifully, there were many who lost. As the saying goes, ginger is hottest when it's old. The senior cultivators, especially those ranked in the top 6,000, almost never lost when they were challenged. Rookie after rookie was defeated. This bunch of rookies, they think that they are marvelous. They have just arrived in the Taiya Divine City, they have only been here for a few months, and they think they can rise above us? So naive. A senior cultivator said disdainfully. The recruits that gathered in Taiya Divine City every year would have their egos inflated after doing well in the rookie ranking competitions. They wanted to rise up high by battling the veterans. But most of the time, these people would fail. Very few veterans in the Taiya Divine City were weaklings. There are some pretty good ones in this batch of rookies, such as that brat named Yun. He has some talent, but he's still too young. If he dares challenge me, I'll teach him a good lesson. A cultivator who had spent 2 years and 3 months in the Taiya Divine City wiped his long sword and proudly smiled. His position on the Earth Roll of Honor hovered around 4,000. Amongst the cultivators who had spent more than 2 years in the Taiya Divine City, he was considered one of the better ones. It was obvious that he was better than the rookies. But at this moment, the referee shouted loudly, "Divine Wilderness Stage, 3780, Fang Jihai, come on stage." With this shout from the referee, the cultivator wiping his sword was surprised. What? 3,780. Isn't that someone ranked around 3,700 in the Earth Roll? Fang Jihai. The name flashed within the sword-wiping cultivator's mind. He knew Fang Jihai. They had arrived in the same batch and have spent more than 2 years in the Taiya Divine City. However, Fang Jihai's strength was higher than his. Amongst the third years, Fang Jihai was considered one of the stronger ones. This name was quite a famous one. Someone actually dared to challenge Fang Jihai? Someone is courting death? The youth, who was wiping his sword, looked over to see who was so naive as to court death. At this moment, he saw a girl in a yellow swan dress appear on the Divine Wilderness Stage like a gust of wind. Challenger, 10,001, Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran. Isn't she one of the 2 strongest people amongst the rookies? Hearing Chu Xiaoran's name, the sword-wiping youth froze. So it was Chu Xiaoran who had challenged Fang Jihai. But so what if it was Chu Xiaoran? Did she think that the senior cultivators, who had spent 2 to 3 years in the Taiya Divine City, were here just to enjoy the meals? Did she think that they, as veterans, could be so easily stepped on? Chu Xiaoran's popularity was high amongst the rookies. The moment she appeared on stage, the arena heated up. Many rookies cheered for Chu Xiaoran. There were few females in the Taiya Divine City, so females were relatively more welcomed. For a person of Chu Xiaoran's stature, and with her great strength, it was pretty much obvious why she was popular. Chu Xiaoran is sure to win. Wave after waves of shouts made many excited in this high-level competition. And right in the middle of the stage, a youth in blue was unmoved hearing these cheers. So you are Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran's opponent was Fang Jihai. He looked 15 to 16 and he held a spear in hand. He stood upright and had an imposing aura. Amongst the rookies, you are indeed not bad. In 5 years' time, you will definitely have the opportunity to enter the top 3 of the Heaven and Earth Rolls. You might even be number 1. But now, it's still too early. I will go all out to defeat you. Fang Jihai said this before pulling out his spear. Who? A heat wave exploded like a tsunami. A flame began burning on the spear. It made it difficult for one to approach it. Flame control? People were surprised seeing this. Even Yun stared attentively. In this world, there were all sorts of cultivation techniques. It was not surprising for a cultivation technique to be able to generate a flame. For example, in the Taiya sacred technique, the Yuan Qi that was condensed was named Radiant Sun Qi. It was also a form of Qi, but its elemental property was not fire, it was pure Yang. In terms of energy grade, pure yang was greater than fire. This Fang Jihai is quite strong. With his purple blood realm level, he can condense a flame with his Yuan Qi. That's pretty amazing. Who do you think will win? Just this display of Fang Jihai's powers was an eye-opening experience for many rookies. Indeed, none of the senior cultivators were weaklings. Of course it's Miss Chu. But, to win against Fang Jihai, she will probably need to put in some effort. Rookies were biased towards Chu Xiaoran, however with Fang Jihai's strength displayed, this battle was probably not going to be easy. Junior Chu, the battlefield is heartless. Watch out now. Fang Jihai raised his spear and charged forward. He raised the long spear above his head and slashed downwards. Phew! The flame flared up, sending waves of flames that indiscriminately swept the area. Reckless fire. Facing Chu Xiaoran, Fang Jihai did not go easy. He used one of his signature moves from the start, so that he could beat Chu Xiaoran as quickly as possible. If he were to take a long time to battle a rookie, and actually end up failing miserably at such an easy task, it would be extremely embarrassing. Chapter 228, Hardsoft. The entire Divine Wilderness stage, that was 30 meters in radius, was engulfed by a thick fiery serpent. The fire serpent whipped around the stage with a tumultuous burning sound and it surrounded Chu Xiaoran. Fang Jihai thrust his spear towards Chu Xiaoran's shoulder. Fang Jihai's spear was 9 foot long and it was made of black iron. On the other hand, Chu Xiaoran was using a sword. Using a sword, which is considered a light weapon, against a spear strike, it is inevitably inferior in strength. At that moment, many broke out into a cold sweat for Chu Xiaoran. However, Chu Xiaoran remained nonchalant within the fiery storm. As Fang Jihai thrust his spear downwards, the thrust threatened to swallow Chu Xiaoran within the flames. Only then did she make her move. The 4-foot-long sword had a long yet soft blade. Like a tumbling leaf, it clashed with Fang Jihai's spear. Oh! Using a soft sword to parry a heavy black iron spear. People were shocked. How could this happen? Wouldn't this strike from the spear deform Chu Xiaoran's sword, which in turn would break her arm? Before they could even gasp, they saw a sword beam rise up into the heavens. Cha! The engulfing flames were sliced apart by Chu Xiaoran's sword. Furthermore, Chu Xiaoran had broken Fang Jihai's fire Yuan Qi with her sword. The sword tip came into contact with the black iron spear's shaft. Suddenly, space seemed to freeze. Fang Jihai's spear was apparently stuck in a mud pool. It was restrained by a sword that was as soft as water. The heavy black iron spear could only bend the sword's blade slightly and it could not go any further. Chu Xiaoran suddenly pulled out the sword, separating from the spear with ease. Boom! Fang Jihai's spear slammed into the purple tungsten ground, causing a huge dent. But at this moment, Chu Xiaoran struck with her sword again. Her sword reached an extreme speed as it stabbed towards Fang Jihai's heart. What happened? Fang Jihai was struck dumb with astonishment. When he crossed weapons with Chu Xiaoran earlier, he felt a very odd feeling. It was as if all his strength had been restrained by Chu Xiaoran. And he couldn't figure out what method Chu Xiaoran had used. Now, Fang Jihai had no time to ponder over it. Chu Xiaoran's blade beam was right in front of him. Fiery shield. Fang Jihai swept with his spear and a fiery vortex formed in front of him. In that split second, a thick crimson fiery shield was formed. Phew! Chu Xiaoran's sword sent out a ear-piercing screeching sound and it struck the flame shield. Pang! Even after the energy impact, Chu Xiaoran's blade beam carried on flying forward. It had broken through the flame shield completely. The fiery explosion caused a rain of fire to spread out indiscriminately. In it, there was a girl wearing a yellow swan dress. This made the scene look extremely beautiful. Fang Jihai retreated again and again. He was amazed that his reckless fire attack had been blocked by Chu Xiaoran, and then his fiery shield had been completely broken by Chu Xiaoran. How could this girl be this strong? Chu Xiaoran began sending a flurry of sword attacks. Fang Jihai rapidly retreated as he tried to use his spear to break through Chu Xiaoran's blade beams. However, Chu Xiaoran's sword seemed to possess an incredible resilience within it. No matter how strong Fang Jihai's spear beams were, Chu Xiaoran's sword was pervasive. A thin sword qi pierced through Fang Jihai's yuan qi protection, making his whole body feel numb as if he was electrocuted. How is this possible? Fang Jihai clearly felt that Chu Xiaoran's yuan qi was not better than his, yet he was restrained again and again. He felt that he could not use all of his strength at all. In the audience, when everyone saw this scene, a person suddenly realized, it's a nomological truth. Didn't you hear? Chu Xiaoran has already gained insight on the hard-soft truth. The hard-soft truth was a combination of hardness and softness. Chu Xiaoran's weapon may look like a soft sword, but after Chu Xiaoran gained insight on the hard-soft truth, this soft sword gained incredible strength. Swish! With the blade beams rising up, Chu Xiaoran forced Fang Jihai into a corner of the ring. Then, an attack came from above, flying directly towards Fang Jihai's head. Fang Jihai raised his spear to block it. Pwa! Fang Jihai's fiery yuan qi was split apart. This sword slashed down on Fang Jihai's spear shaft. The blade carried on with its momentum and it bent the shaft as it carried on towards Fang Jihai like a whip. Oh! Fang Jihai constricted his pupils. He had no way of dodging because it was too close. The sharp blade beam had broken through Fang Jihai's protective yuan qi and it opened a wound across Fang Jihai's chest. This wound allowed Chu Xiaoran's qi to rush into Fang Jihai's meridians. With the sword qi entering his body, Fang Jihai's body trembled as a stream of blood gushed out of his mouth. Before he could counter, Chu Xiaoran had struck again. Pang! Chu Xiaoran's attack completely split Fang Jihai's protective yuan qi apart. He flew back before slamming heavily onto the ground. Chu Xiaoran wins this battle. When the referee announced the result, Fang Jihai was dazed. He lost? He lost to a rookie girl, who was 2 to 3 years younger than him. He had been training in the Taiya Divine City for 2 years, yet he could not compete with someone who just arrived in the Taiya Divine City. Many rookies in the audience looked at each other. They were all supporters of Chu Xiaoran and they believed she could win. But they never expected Chu Xiaoran to win so cleanly. And it seemed like she did not use all of her energy. She had defeated a senior cultivator ranked 3,780 without using all of her energy. Terrifying. Amazing, the strength Chu Xiaoran that showed was on a different level compared to those on the rookie rankings. Previously, someone ranked 7th on the rookie rankings challenged a senior cultivator ranked in the 5,000s and they still lost, but Chu Xiaoran beat someone in the 3,700s easily. This gap is too great. And it's said that Qiunyou is on par with Chu Xiaoran. Could Qiunyou also have similar strength? Many rookies were shocked. They had already heard that while they were doing their miscellaneous jobs, Qiunyou and Chu Xiaoran had already entered the divine wilderness to hunt desolate beasts. The danger involved was obvious. Back then, they were just impressed, but they did not know to what extent these two's strength was. But now, it seems that there was a big difference in strength between those ranked 3rd, 4th, or 5th on the rookie rankings, even though there is only a very small difference in their rankings. The other rookies ranked in the top 10 like Lu Yuxing can be ignored. Only Yi Yun had an impressive battle. But he did not have the stunning result like how Chu Xiaoran easily defeated Fang Jihai. Within the hearts of many, Lu Yuxing could not compare to a senior cultivator like Fang Jihai. And the rule set by the Divine City for the rookie rankings was that fights had to carry on till a winner amongst the rookies was decided. The Divine City had prepared rich rewards to the number 1 rookie. Now Chu Xiaoran might seem the strongest, and the only person that could compete with Chu Xiaoran was Qiunyou and possibly Yi Yun. Chu Xiaoran has understood the hard-soft truths. This is the foundation of the Defender Duke's family. From a young age, Chu Xiaoran was under the tutelage of good teachers in the Defender Duke's residence. The resources she received were also extraordinary. Compared to us, she's on a completely different level. Someone sighed with emotion. After all, no one could compare with a descendant from a family with great accumulative heritage. We might not be able to, but Yi Yun might be able to barely compete. I am really looking forward to Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran's battle. Yi Yun has even weaker roots than us. Although his chances of winning are slim, he can still fight an exhilarating battle. If he can force Chu Xiaoran to use all her strength, then it would be something to be proud of. Although many were jealous of Yi Yun, some cultivators were impressed with Yi Yun's origins. Those who came from small family clans knew the difficulty of climbing up. How is it? Any thoughts? Baldychin asked while stroking his chin as he stood beside Yi Yun. He had always been hypercritical, but he could not help but praise Chu Xiaoran's performance. Yi Yun smiled and nodded. She is indeed strong. In the Tai A Divine Kingdom, there were all sorts of hidden monsters. If this was 3 months ago, when he just arrived in the Tai A Divine City, Yi Yun would feel like he could do nothing against a person like Chu Xiaoran. They were of a completely different level. Chu Xiaoran had great swordplay, cultivation techniques, and had gained insight on a nomological truth. As for states like the tempered body, dragon pulse, even a pea-sized brain could figure out that Chu Xiaoran had reached them earlier on. Back then, Yi Yun with only his large success stage of minute subtlety would have no advantage against Chu Xiaoran. They were from completely different realms. But now, everything was different. With the Taiya sacred technique, it had filled the gap in Yi Yun's many shortcomings. Now, Yi Yun deeply understood the importance of cultivation techniques and nomology. It could increase a person's strength to an entirely new level. Without a good cultivation technique and without understanding any nomologies, any amount of energy that his body absorbed would be useless. It was like a group of strong soldiers without a general commanding them. The battle prowess would be greatly reduced. Chapter 229, Inborn Divine Strength. Today's ranking matches were destined to reach greater heights. After Chu Xiaoran, 3 expert rookies, who were ranked in the top 10, went on stage. They challenged senior cultivators that were ranked around 5,000. The battleground became extremely intense. Although these rookies could not compare with Chu Xiaoran, who had gained insight on a hint of nomological truths, they obtained cheers from the crowd just from their yuan-chi clashes. Unfortunately, the 3 expert rookies failed to beat the veteran cultivators, who had been training for 2 to 3 years. Just as other rookies were feeling regretful for these 3 people, a black horse appeared on stage. A rookie named Gu Mu, who was ranked 20, challenged a senior cultivator who was ranked in the 4,900s. Everyone originally thought that Gu Mu was going to lose, but the result surprised everyone. Gu Mu actually defeated his opponent, squeezing into the top 5,000. Gu Mu was an obscure name. As a rookie who was in 20th place amongst the rookies, he did not arouse much attention. But the rookie rankings were estimated based on their performance in the past 3 months in the Tai A Divine City. It could not accurately determine a person's real strength. Gu Mu was a nobody who managed to quietly rise up to the top 5,000. This astonished many people. What made most people surprised was that Gu Mu did not come from any famous family clans. In terms of familial background, he was better than Yi Yun, but not by much. His paternal grandfather was a kingdom knight, but when it reached his father's generation, it deteriorated. Such a family clan could not be considered a family clan, but it still produced a freak like Gu Mu. Gu Mu must have had some fortuitous events to reach such a level. When people thought about this, they sighed. The world was so large with an unknown number of people within it. There were so many elites. It was not surprising to them that some of these elites encountered fortuitous events. In this batch of rookies, first it was Yi Yun, then it was Gu Mu. There was all sorts of hidden talent. It became more intense as the battles went on during the 5th day of the competition. the last match pushed the excitement to a climax. Divine Wilderness Stage, 3960, by Mingwu. Challenger, 10,002, Xionyou. Following the announcement by the referee, all the rookies were excited. Xionyou was up. There was no one who doubted Chu Xiaoran's strength anymore. As for Xionyou, he was always placed on par with Chu Xiaoran. Due to Chu Xiaoran's outstanding performance earlier, many suspected if Xionyou was at the same level as Chu Xiaoran. Now, they could see it for themselves. Finally it's my turn. Beside Chu Xiaoran, a 1.9 m tall man stood up suddenly. It was hard to believe that he was 13 years old. Xionyou looked at his opponent. His opponent was also a tall and well-built person. He was 15 years old and 1.8 m tall. He was well matched with Xionyou. Against this kid, my white metal armor should be enough, Xionyou said to himself. Beside him, Chu Xiaoran laughed. Be careful not to fail such an easy task. Fail? Xionyou wiped the tip of his nose with his thumb. Don't worry. Before fighting you, I won't lose. Xionyou had not fought Chu Xiaoran in a long time. After seeing Chu Xiaoran beat Fang Jihai, Xionyou also felt the pressure. After not seeing her for so many years, despite being familiar in the past, he could no longer fathom her strength. Bai Mingwu came on stage. He pulled out his weapon, which was a polearm. As for Xionyou's weapon, it shocked many people when they saw it. Most of his body was covered in thick pale gold armor that included his legs, torso, and arms. On his right hand, he had a huge glove that was as long as half a person and it was as thick as an adult's waist. This glove was like the barrel of a cannon. It was also pale gold in color. Behind the glove, there were 3 sharp blades. Each blade was 1.5 m long and they were half a palm's width wide. With the 3 blades side by side, it was like a giant claw. On Xionyou's left hand, there was a pale gold shield that was a meter in diameter. Seeing Xionyou in such an attire, many people were stunned. This was too ridiculous. The armor and weapon made Xionyou look like a moving castle. Boom! Xionyou jumped onto the stage. With a metallic thud, the purple tungsten tiles trembled under Xionyou's feet. Heavens! How heavy is that? People were shocked. The purple tungsten tiles were 3 meters wide and a foot thick each, and they were extremely heavy. With them lined up side by side, they were extremely solid. But Xionyou could cause them to tremble just by jumping on them. This armor, Bai Mingwu glanced at Xionyou and raised his polearm. How are you going to keep up with my speed in such an attire? Xionyou grinned and said, I'm not good at anything. I just have a bit more strength. Only by wearing this can I accentuate my advantage. Ha! Bai Mingwu smiled coldly, then let's try it. As soon as the match started, Bai Mingwu attacked. He used his movement skills to form a series of shadows. He wanted to defeat Xionyou using his speed. In that attire, Xionyou may have great physical strength, but he was slow. Bai Mingwu moved like the wind, while Xionyou stood motionless. Bai Mingwu did not belittle Xionyou. With Chu Xiaoran defeating Fang Jihai, he had the perfect example. He did not want to follow in Fang Jihai's footsteps by being defeated by a rookie. It would be too embarrassing. Phew! A polearm beam flew into the sky and it began moving around like a whip. Bai Mingwu's polearm had been infused with a lot of yuan qi, which turned it emerald in color. It's the Bai family's Mystic Jade Heart Sutra. Someone shouted. In the Taiya Divine Kingdom, many family clans had their own secret techniques. None of these secret techniques should be underestimated. A family had its own heritage, which allowed them to train up their future generations. Through intermarriage and obtaining good bloodlines, a family clan would slowly flourish. A good set of cultivation techniques was the cornerstone of a family clan. A warrior with a weak cultivation technique compared to someone with a strong cultivation technique would be crushed if everything else was equal. The mystic Jade Heart Sutra was also a cultivation technique with a great reputation. It was not weaker than the Lu family's star-picking hand. And Lu Yuxing, who had used the star-picking hand, was just a rookie. How could he be as well-versed in a cultivation technique compared to a senior cultivator like Bai Mingwu? Swish! Bai Mingwu instantaneously appeared in front of Qianniu. With the polearm raised, he slashed at Qianniu's neck. The polearm's beam went from top to bottom. It looked like an emerald green lightning blast was flying towards Qianniu. Everyone stared wide. This attack was extremely powerful. Facing Bai Mingwu's death blow, Qianniu shouted out loudly. That tumultuous sound wave spread throughout the stage like thunder spreading across the sky. With all his body's strength circulating, he lifted his left arm. Dang! A deafening rumble sounded out. Qianniu's shield had blocked Bai Mingwu's attack. With a deafening bang, the emerald green beam exploded. The purple tungsten tiles under Qianniu's feet trembled. The huge impact had caused 2 craters to form in the purple tungsten around Qianniu's feet. But Qianniu did not retreat even one step. This strength! Seeing Qianniu use the shield on his left hand to block Bai Mingwu's strike, everyone was shocked and their jaws almost fell apart. Bai Mingwu had used both hands to move the polearm, and together with the mystic Jade Heart Sutra, the power of the blow was imaginable. Yet, Qianniu managed to block it with his single left hand, and he did not retreat once. What sort of strange strength was this? If it was an average person, just using an arm shield to block a polearm infused with the mystic Jade Heart Sutra would have broken the bones in his arm. Bai Mingwu contracted his pupils. The impact had caused his palm to feel numb from the tremor. A polearm was a heavy weapon and it was very hard. He could not endure this for long. This kid, I don't believe his arm is totally fine. Just as he was thinking this, Bai Mingwu suddenly realized that Qianniu had grabbed his polearm. After blocking the polearm with his left hand, Qianniu had used his right hand to grab the polearm. He had lodged himself in position with the polearm's shaft. This weapon is now mine, Qianniu grinned. If I grab any weapon, you can't take them out of my hands. What? Hearing Qianniu's words, a vein popped out on Bai Mingwu's forehead. You are too arrogant. Bai Mingwu shouted, and then he began circulating the mystic Jade Heart Sutra, which caused his Yuan Qi to burst out. With his hands on the polearm, he pulled back with force. Pang! The mystic Jade Heart Sutra, his Yuan Qi burst out, but the polearm was still in Qianniu's hand. It was like the polearm was stuck in Qianniu's hand. Bai Mingwu stared with widened eyes. Qianniu's strength was too terrifying. He did not believe in heresy. As he madly powered up his mystic Jade Heart Sutra, his Yuan Qi roared out like a tsunami, but Qianniu's hands were like a black iron casted vice. It refused to release its grapple on the polearm. No matter how much the polearm resisted, it was like a snake that was stuck in a hole. It was unable to move. What happened? Beads of sweat began forming on Bai Mingwu's forehead. It was the first time he could not pull his weapon back after it had been grabbed. It was also the first time he faced an opponent who had used such a technique. Using his enormous strength, he grabbed the weapons of others. How was one to fight that? At this point, Bai Mingwu suddenly felt a surge of strength flow through the polearm. The polearm was raised up high. Bai Mingwu, who held onto the polearm, suddenly felt his legs lift up. His entire body had been lifted by Qianniu. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. They were speechless. They never expected that this match would end up this way. From afar, all one could see was Qianniu wearing heavy armor, with his body as immovable as a mountain. He had inclined his arm upwards, lifting Bai Mingwu and the polearm up. It was like he was holding a lollipop. Chapter 230, The One Gathering of the Elites. Bai Mingwu's face turned red. After all these years, taking part in numerous battles, big and small, he had never encountered such a situation. It was absolutely shameful. This Qianyo's methods were unpredictable. Bai Mingwu grit his teeth. With an abrupt slip of his hands, he moved down the polearm's shaft towards Qianyo. By circulating the mystic Jade Heart Sutra, all of his Yuan Qi was now concentrated within his feet. He aimed for Quinia's head as he kicked out with his feet. Bai Mingwu had pretty good leg techniques. However, all Qianyo did was sneer before raising his shield. Dang! Bai Mingwu's feet landed heavily on the shield. The Yuan Qi from the mystic Jade Heart Sutra burst out, causing Bai Mingwu's feet to turn numb. However, it did not affect Qianyo at all. The thick and heavy shield was like a solid metal wall, warding off all sorts of attacks. Bai Mingwu felt helpless. He had used his polearm to attack Qianyo, but it was blocked by Qianyo's shield. The same happened when he used his feet. After blocking Bai Mingwu's strike, Qianyo smiled. With his right hand pulling on the polearm and his left hand holding his shield, his body suddenly jerked forward. Shield bash. Pang. With a loud clang, Bai Mingwu's entire body was sent flying by Qianyo's shield bash. His body tumbled a few times in the air before he landed. The great impact had caused him to take more than 10 steps backwards before he managed to steady his body again. The blood flowing within his body was now in chaos. He pressed his hand against his chest and looked over at Qianyo. Qianyo was still standing in his original spot. In fact, throughout the whole battle, Qianyo had not moved more than just a few steps. As Bai Mingwu was sent flying backwards, his polearm was still in Qianyo's hand. His weapon had been taken away. There was no way of describing what thoughts were going through Bai Mingwu's mind. He had only used one move during this battle. After his weapon was grabbed by his opponent, he could not take it back, and now he was in this embarrassing situation. It was too aggravating. There were still a lot of moves he did not get the chance to use. However, all of these moves required the polearm. Without his weapon, his battle prowess would drop greatly, leaving him with just his leg techniques. He still had a low-quality polearm in his interspatial ring. But, not only was that polearm unable to bring out his greatest potential, the crux of the matter was that Qianyo might take that polearm as well. He did not have any methods of preventing Qianyo from taking away his weapon. If he lost another one, it would be too embarrassing. Standing before Qianyo, Bai Mingwu was now in a dilemma. Qianyo was wearing a heavy armor and he had a huge shield. It was impossible for Bai Mingwu to break those apart with just his fists and feet. Your polearm. I'm returning it to you. As Qianyo said that, he casually weighed the polearm in his hand. Following that, he grabbed the polearm and slightly leaned back, his right foot on the ground, while lifting his left foot. Ha! Qianyo shouted out, and as his left foot landed, his right arm sent the polearm flying. So, the heavy polearm let out an ear-piercing screech that sounded like an explosion. The polearm flew through the air, flying straight at Bai Mingwu. With Qianyo's strength, the polearm's speed was now completely terrifying. Bai Mingwu constricted his pupils. Facing his weapon, which was now flying straight at him, he did not dare to try and grab it. At the moment the polearm was about to strike Bai Mingwu, he gritted his teeth and used his movement technique to dodge it. Dang! With a loud metallic clang, the polearm embedded itself into a purple tungsten protective wall beside the Divine Wilderness stage. The 3-foot-thick purple tungsten wall tremored from this huge impact. Even the tiles on the ground trembled. The polearm was also vibrating non-stop. Upon seeing this, many were at loss for words. Qianyo's strength was too terrifying. Bai Mingwu stood on the stage with a pale face. He really did not know what to do. Did he really need to run down the stage to pick up his polearm? Not only was it embarrassing, but even after retrieving the polearm, he was not confident in his ability of beating Qianyo. Also, what if Qianyo attacked him as he retrieved the polearm? After his deliberating, Bai Mingwu had to admit that he had lost the moment Qianyo grabbed his polearm. He was inferior. Gritting his teeth, Bai Mingwu shook his head and said, "I admit defeat." He was not a sore loser. There was no point in resisting on stage when it had already reached such a situation. "Thank you." Xionyou cupped his hands. Xionyou won this battle. People's moods were indescribable seeing Bai Mingwu sadly walking down the stage and him using all his strength to pull out his polearm. This battle was quite ridiculous. Xionyou's battle strategy was quite different from others, but it was extremely effective. Bai Mingwu had been defeated by Xionyou to the point that he conceded the battle on his own accord. Bai Mingwu admitted defeat. A person ranked in the 3,900s on the Earth roll was defeated by Xionyou, just like that. There's no other way. The difference in strength was too great. After his weapon was taken away, Bai Mingwu lost his confidence. If that did not happen, Bai Mingwu could have fought another few more rounds. In fact, upon reaching the Yuan Foundation realm, a warrior's connection with his weapon would greatly increase. It wouldn't reach the point of easily having the weapon stolen. Once a warrior reached the Yuan Foundation, or a realm beyond the Yuan Foundation, they could use their Yuan Qi to grow their weapons. They could even keep their weapon inside of their dantian, slowly nourishing it. As such, it would not be easy to take away another person's weapon. But it was not impossible either. If someone was strong enough, they could erase the opponent's soul mark on a weapon and steal it. This Xionyou sure is difficult to handle. Once he grabs your weapon, it's over. Seeing Xionyou's attire, many felt powerless. Xionyou's glove was also armored. He could easily grab other weapons as well, such as sabers or swords. If it was a low-quality weapon, he could probably even snap it. Not only that, Xionyou's defense was extremely perverse. With his body covered in armor, together with that heavy shield, it was like he had a thick tortoise shell. A weak attack would only be equivalent to scratching an itch for Xionyou. As for Xionyou's attack power, it was irrefutable. When Xionyou threw the polearm at the end, Bai Mingwu did not even dare to grab it, even though he was its owner. How could Xionyou's attack power be weak? How could one handle him, when his defense and attacking power were that strong and he could grab their weapons easily? He was too difficult to handle. Many of the veteran cultivators, who had spent 2 to 3 years in the Tai Divine City, placed themselves in Bai Mingwu's shoes. If they had fought Xionyou, they had to admit that they would also lose. This batch of rookies sure is crazy. Now, it seems there's an extremely high chance Xionyou and that Chu Xiaoran can enter the top 1,000 within a year. A veteran cultivator said with mixed emotions. But another veteran cultivator shook his head. You are exaggerating by saying there is an extremely high chance. The top 1,000 isn't easy to reach. It is basically the world of Yuan Foundation realm cultivators amongst the top 1,000. Without being at the Yuan Foundation realm, it will be impossible to hold one's ground. And if a rookie were to rise up there, many veterans would pay close attention to him. Who would wish to be lorded over by a rookie? At that point, there would be numerous challengers wishing to pull you down. To establish yourself in the top 1,000? It is difficult. Although this veteran cultivator was unwilling to admit that Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran could establish themselves in the top 1,000 within a year, he was very well aware of the fact that Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran were absolute monsters amongst monsters. Their potentials were no weaker than Qin Haotian's. It was extremely rare for two such figures to appear in a single batch of rookies. The 5th day of the rookie rankings ended. Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran performed outstandingly. Soon, the news of it spread throughout the Tai Divine City. Their names became famous, not only with the rookies, even amongst the veteran cultivators' circles. All of the major factions began to pay close attention to Xionyou and Chu Xiaoran. However, it was impossible to draw them in. The two of them had their own family clans and they were destined to serve their own families. The cultivators in the Tai Divine City debated about who amongst the two was the strongest one. Both of them had their own supporters and they expressed their views based on inferences and conjectures. Their debates became very heated. As such, some associations even opened up a betting pool, deciding who amongst the two would win first place amongst the rookies. The odds between the two were very close. However, Chu Xiaoran had slightly more supporters. How could a beautiful girl be less popular than a stout man? With the betting pools opened, many had also included Yi Yun into them. Yi Yun was compared to Gu Mu, who had shocked everyone on the 5th day of the competition. Yi Yun and Gu Mu were of similar backgrounds. They were both strong and were dark horses before appearing on stage. Many were interested to know who was the strongest one amongst the two. Ha, they are opening another betting pool. Brother Yi, I bought the bet that you would win, Zhou Kuei said excitedly. During dinner time, he found Yi Yun at the cookhouse. He had complete confidence in Yi Yun and he felt that Yi Yun was sure to beat Gu Mu. Yi Yun smiled without saying anything. He had watched all the matches in the past 5 days. Gu Mu was indeed a noteworthy opponent, but he was much worse than both Chunyo and Chu Xiaoran. Yi Yun paid special attention only to Chunyo and Chu Xiaoran. Both of them had their own specialties. Chu Xiaoran had techniques, while Chunyo had absolute strength. Both of them had powers that were on a completely different level than the other rookies. How is it? Brother Yi, did you bet on yourself? Zhou Kuei asked excitedly. Yi Yun shook his head. He had previously heard about these betting pools. Ever since the Hongdao Association suffered a great loss due to Yi Yun, many of the associations learned their lesson. The bet limit was only up to 500 dragon scale runes. The odds against him beating Gu Mu was not very high. Together with the high tax on gambling by the Taiya Divine City, there was nothing much to be earned. Yi Yun could not be bothered to bet. Only poor rookies like Zhou Kuei would find interest in making a small gamble. Brother Yi, keep it up. Although the Taiya Divine City is only giving away glory points and other cultivation privileges to the person in first place, you will still be well rewarded at third place. Brother Yi, I look up to you.